Hi, everybody, and welcome to my show, The Carrie Luxon Show. I have a super special guest on today, Mike Ganino, and I could spend the entire time talking about our relationship and all these awesome things about Mike, but you can learn a ton about him at mikeganino.com or go to the description and you will learn all kinds of great stuff about Mike. Essentially, he helps leaders become magnetic, confident public speakers and storytellers. And so I have him on today to talk about that. Welcome to the show, Mike. Talk to me to start about why storytelling is such an important thing when it comes to leading and managing restaurants or any business.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will, there's so much information out there about like storytelling. So I know your audience has seen that. They're savvy leaders, so they've seen all of that. What I think is easy to dismiss sometimes is that it feels fluffy. Oh, I don't need to storytell. I need to get these people to do what I need them to do. And how I like to think about storytelling when I teach executives, managers, and leaders, like the folks who watch this show, is that storytelling is about humanizing and giving a lived-in explanation of something you want to happen. And if we're not able to do that, if we're not able to communicate what the world could look like, communicate why something it's happening, why that's not helpful to us. If we can't communicate those things, we can't really be managers. Like we can't really be leaders if people don't listen and say, oh, I get it. I see what you mean. That communication skill is, I believe, the number one thing, more than understanding a P&L or a spreadsheet or how to order or inventory or any of that. We have to understand how to communicate our ideas to our teams.
What do you think is single-handedly the biggest issue when it comes to storytelling?
I mean, this is going to sound so sassy, but the number one issue is people just don't do it because it sounds like it's a lot of work. It sounds like it takes too much. We see, one of the big places I think people can utilize it is in orientations. When we're teaching teams and telling them about who we are and what we do, what often happens is we think we're telling a story because it involves names and dates. So we started in 1997 as a small sandwich shop, wink, wink, Carrie. Right. And so what we think is because it had dates and names in it, that it's a story. But a story is really about a journey from being one thing to being another. And so the more that we can share those kinds of things with our team, the better. For example, in our values, that's a number one place, I think. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, where should I start? Look at your company values. And instead of teaching them like a dictionary definition where we say, we value integrity, which means we do this, teach it through a story about someone who had to make a difficult decision, not an easy decision. So not just like, Carrie's great because she had integrity, look at this, but Carrie could have taken the easy route out here. This is the situation at hand. Let's talk about what she actually did instead, which is an embodiment of our values. That's the number one place I think that leaders in this industry can really learn from. And so the number one mistake we make is we either don't tell stories or we think we're telling stories simply because they have names and dates in them.
Recruiting and hiring is a huge issue. People can't attract people. And I talk a lot about, getting out there and if you're using social media or whatever and telling your story, and I'm not even sure that I know exactly what I mean when I say that, but, so talking about it. Can you talk to that a little bit about if somebody is trying to attract those candidates that, those competitors are maybe getting or trying to get, how could they incorporate storytelling into that and have a lot more success?
One of the big shifts I think people can make in storytelling in that capacity is that in the place of recruiting and finding people, so on your about page, sure, tell about the brand and how it was started. And I call it the WTF moment, the what the friction moment. When did you decide there's got to be a better way to do service? There's got to be a better way to serve this community and start your brand against all odds. That's a great thing for your about page. On your careers page, on your applications, in the videos you create for recruiting, what we need to do is tell stories about the people who work there so that the people we want to work there can see themselves in that story. What happens often is we go out and we say, we're great. It's like dating, right? If we were going on a date and I was like, let me tell you, I'm wonderful. I was born in 1980 and all of this. It's not about you and us then. Versus what a candidate wants to hear is a story about them and how they could be successful working with you.
How can somebody be a better storyteller or public speaker?
This is really valuable. I was a restaurant trainer for years. I was in HR. I became a chief operating officer. And I will say that I believe 100% of that is based on my ability to communicate.
Mike Ganino, you are a true expert. You really are. So thank you so much for coming to the show today. I'm excited for people to learn from you.
Thanks for having me.